Hey there, y'all. John Cooper of Skillet has said that Jesus rescued me and music was there for me. He's been quoted as saying that during a dark season of his life, no one understood me, but Metallica does, Stryper does. We'll take a look at his comments in a new article from ChristianityToday.com. Coming right up. Stay where you are. Hey there, y'all. Welcome back to another Tim Talks Christian Rock. Tim Risto here. Thanks so much for joining me. Hope you're having a great day today, and may God bless your day going forward from here. Listen, we're going to do something a little bit different today. There's a great article out from ChristianityToday.com. Came out in the last probably 10 days or so as of the date of this video. And it's all about the Christian rock band Skillet that's been performing for, some 30 years now. And there's some great comments from John Cooper. It's a really good article. We're not going to read the whole thing, but there's a couple paragraphs and sound bites I want to pull out and look at in particular from this article that I think I personally relate to, and I'm sure many of you will relate to as well, that really kind of highlight the connection many of us probably have with Christian music. It could apply to music in general, but in particular that faith angle that comes from Christian music. The lyrical angle, not just the music angle, but at the same time, the fact that the music speaks to us, and even more so, the message of hope contained in the lyrics of that music speak to us too. So I wanted to highlight this really quick. So let's hop on over to ChristianityToday.com and take a look at this. Here's the article. The headline reads, "After 30 years, Skillet rocks on." This is by Kelsey Kramer McGinnis. The veteran band reached alienated youth group teens of the 90s. Now the kids of their first fans are listening too. It's a great photo there too. It's Skillet performing at Winter Jam. Great, fantastic photo. Love that pic. We're going to start and punch in right here. Edginess, musical and rhetorical, has long been part of Skillet's brand. Increasingly, it seems that edginess is expressing itself through politics. Frontman John Cooper's activism on stage, online, and on his podcast related to gender, politics, and wokeness has attracted listeners who share his conservative views. The podcast's most recent episode is in part a critical response to a recent article by Christianity Today's editor-in-chief, Russell Moore. Cooper seems to understand that the teens and young adults, especially men of today, are experiencing a different kind of alienation than he did, one marked by a feeling of collective powerlessness and political disenfranchisement. But the underlying rage, loneliness, and pain, those are themes Skillet has always addressed. "I have a perpetual love for teenagers," he told CT. "We have to talk about nihilism and anger. I want them to know it's okay to feel this way, but I also want them to know that there is hope." In Skillet's early days, Cooper sported PC bleached blonde hair, striking contrast to his current dark hair and long beard, and a punk-inspired wardrobe, lots of black cut-off tank tops and baggy pants, keeping with the band's creative debt to 90s acts like Nirvana. Cooper said the angst and disillusionment associated with figures like Kurt Cobain is part of Skillet's story too. Grunge and hard rock resonated with isolated teens like Cooper himself, who lost his mother to cancer when he was 15 years old. "I started fighting with my dad. I was angry and I was lonely," Cooper said. "I would fantasize about hurting people. Nothing extreme, but I'd think, this person is hurting me. How can I hurt them?" Here's a soundbite I want to kind of focus on here for part of this. "During that dark season," Cooper said, "Jesus rescued him and music was there for him. It was like no one I know understands me, but Metallica does, Stryper does, Trent Reznor does," he said. Skillet's first album, Skillet 1996, paid homage to Nirvana's 1991 album Nevermind. The title track, I Can, borrows structurally and sonically from Smells Like Teen Spirit. That grunge sound attracted Skillet's early fans, mostly Christian teens and young adults, looking for music that satisfied their desire for something cool and their parents' search for safe content. And I got a note here that album, that 1996 Skillet album, is really an album that drew me to the band back in that day, 96. I love the band, followed their first 3 or 4 albums pretty closely, enjoyed the grunge phase of the band, and then kind of drifted off to other bands after that. I know a lot of people came in at kind of the awake and comatose phase of the band. I followed them since. They kind of changed a little bit around that time period, but I followed them back then. And now I'm kind of just coming back around. In fact, earlier today, somewhere I have around here, I just picked up the Awake album from Half Price Books on CD. But anyway, I loved their grunge phase. That was a fantastic start for the band. Skillet came out in the heyday of CCM's bid to offer a Christian alternative to suit any musical taste. If you like NSYNC, try Plus One. If you like Alanis Morissette, try Rebecca St. James. There were artists for Christians who wanted a taste of what it would be like to be plugged into mainstream music subcultures, including their fandoms, concert-going, and merch, but without sexual content, drug references, or explicit language. Skillet took a slightly different approach. Josh Balog, a writer for the Christian music forum Jesus Freak Hideout, said that though the band was always positioned as a Christian alternative to grunge, it also didn't shy away from the dark content that defined the genre. They were diving into mental health, suicidal ideation, really heavy themes. Though their young Christian listeners might not have been allowed to listen to secular rock, they still resonated with the aesthetics of disillusionment and despair. Andrew Zaplicki discovered Skillet in 1998 as a preteen at Creation Festival, a Christian music festival held in Pennsylvania from 1979 to 2023 that his parents made part of a family vacation. As the alternative fringe stage, he saw the band perform songs from their second album, Hey You, I Love Your Soul. Other Christian hitmakers like Audio Adrenaline played too, but Zaplicki was an instant Skillet fan. I was an angsty kid, but my family had only ever listened to contemporary Christian music and country, he said. I felt like the world had just opened up to us with all this new music we could listen to. When Zaplicki was a lonely adolescent, his father was an active duty service member, and his family moved every 2 years or so, listening to Skillet gave hard emotions a safe place to land. Years later, during a family crisis, Zaplicki turned to the band's music again. In 2018, he and his family were visiting grandparents over the Thanksgiving holiday. One morning, Zaplicki's 18-month-old didn't wake up. The unexpected death of their child left Zaplicki and his wife reeling. In the aftermath, Skillet's music was like an old friend. There were days when their music got me through the day. Don't get me wrong, God got me through it, but the music was the soundtrack, said Zaplicki. Skillet provided a place for his loneliness and sadness in adolescence. In adulthood, the raw, emotional, and themic songs from the band's 2016 album, Unleashed, resonated with him in the midst of mourning. Now, Zaplicki and his 10-year-old son listen to Skillet together. I wanted to kind of draw attention to that part of the article because I think, number one, it's an incredibly poignant story, very emotional, and very heartfelt, and I think many of us can relate. Maybe not on the level to where we've lost, a child and been drawn back to the message in the music, the Christian message in the music, but there may have been all sorts of different things that we've gone through in our life, and we've found ourselves drawn back, partly because of the music, but certainly because of the hope-filled message that's contained in the music. And the music was an entry point for many of us. Kind of like Zaplicki here, his 10-year-old son, it kind of comes full circle again. Talked about this point here not too long ago when I was on the Area 312 podcast, and we were picking some of our favorite album covers, and one that I mentioned that always resonated with me was Res Band's Hostage album from the 80s. And that one to me was one of those that had kind of some darker themes. It had a darker sound to it, and it was an album that really lyrically, thematically, and musically really reached into my soul as a young teen back in those days. I wasn't going through, obviously, the loss of a child or anything like that, but those angst-driven kind of emotions that you feel as a teen, that music really spoke to me. That was one of several albums that really pulled me out and got me through some of those times. I'm sure many of you have albums that resonated with you, too, back in the day, especially if you came into Christian music in the 80s or 90s, and could comment on that as well. But I think this is just a really relevant point. I just wanted to kind of pull that out today because for many of us, that's the connection to Christian music and why it's special. Not just because the music is good, it is, but because the message is so strong. We're drawn to it in a heartfelt way. The Spirit connects with us, sometimes through the music, through those lyrics. and it becomes a source of hope that really leads back to Scripture. So I just wanted to kind of note that today. I don't have any big, huge, overwhelming discussion here on this, but I would like to kind of ask you all, which of you has a album, or which album for you all, was kind of like that? Was there one in particular that really helped pull you through some difficult point in your life, or maybe like me back in adolescence, in high school, there was a particular album that really got you through some tough times that you listened to? I think this is just a really great point by John Cooper here with Skillet, and part of the reason why this band is still going, I think, because they've got their heart and head in the right place, and they've got their message in the right place too. So they know who their audience is. They know who they're speaking to, and they know what their message is that they're relaying. And it's definitely one of hope and healing and faith in Jesus Christ. So anyway, just wanted to kind of raise that point today. Let me know in the comments down below, y'all, what you think of this and which album resonated for you in a difficult time in your life. That's all I got for today, y'all. Why don't you go out and listen to some great Christian rock, make it some Skillet today. Above all else, though, stay in God's Word. Blessings, y'all. See you next time. Bye-bye.